Welcome, my children. Manly Behold, Secret Teachings of All Ages, Chapter 7, Part 2. Let's get through it, my boys. Welcome to these readings. If you would like to support the channel, do consider giving a one-time donation via PayPal or becoming something, the Ko-fi account. No one really uses the Ko-fi account. I don't really use it anymore. Just become a YouTube member. Hey, Jiminy Cricket, how's it going? Howdy, Tyler. Howdy, Bob. Howdy, Ruben. Hello, Outtuition. Kimberly. What else do we do? Something. Follow me on Twitter. Something. I have a Substack, which I'm still kind of trying to... I'm still writing, okay. Also, we've got the next Evolovid live stream going on, the Telegram. I'm going to see if I'm going to switch around those Evolovids. Maybe I'll move them to Substack. Sorry, Telegram. We'll see how it goes. Magnus, Reardon, welcome. Also, man, I'm so bad at intros. Tarot time. Okay, as everyone knows, before the stream starts, as the stream's starting, before we dive into it, we always shuffle, and I draw a card, and y'all have to guess it. So if you're watching in the future, don't skip to the end. Let's see if your psychic powers are chiseled. Howdy, Nick D. Excellent, Kimberly. That's what I like to hear. Let's see. We have a card here. I'm looking at it. I'm absorbing the symbolism. And the energy is recorded. Let's see if you can guess what card I drew. I'm sending it to you now. Kimberly guesses Temperance. Okay. Well, while you'll guess and have a chat in the chat, I will begin reading. Howdy, Esoteric Programmer. Let's dive right into it. A serpent interwoven among the olive leaves on her head, devouring its own tail, denotes that the horrific unctuosity was soiled with the venom of terrestrial corruption, which surrounded it and must be mortified and purified by 7 planetary circulations, or purifications, called flying eagles. That's interesting. So that's an alchemical terminology for purification. In order to make it medicinal for the restoration of health, her emanations from the sun are recognized as a medicine for the healing of human ills. The 7 planetary circulations are represented by the circumambulations of the Masonic Lodge. I know they circumambulate, but do they do that 7 times? By the marching of the Jewish priests 7 times around the walls of Jericho, and the Mohammedan priests 7 times around the Kaaba. Oh, do they do that 7 times around the Kaaba? Okay. I know they go around the Kaaba in a big circle. I didn't know they it 7 times though. Any Muslims in the chat want to confirm? At Mecca, the Kaaba at Mecca, that big black cube. Everyone's like, I hate when people are like, oh yeah, that's like Muhammad's birthplace. People in the West who don't know anything about Islam are just like, yeah, that's like Muhammad's tomb or something. They just make a guess what it is, and it's like, no, that's not what's inside the Kaaba, dog. Anyway, from the crown of gold project 3 horns of plenty, signifying the abundance of the gift of nature, proceeding from one root, having its origins in the heavens. Horns of plenty. But yes, the root of the origin in the heavens. That's a very important point. We got more people. Everyone's coming into chat now. Howdy, Outtuition. Oh, sorry, we got Emperor. We got the guesses of Devil. Nulu's there. Still in the gray, Nulu. Shabbat. Shalom. We got guesses for the Hierophant. So Magnus and Ruben are guessing the Hierophant. Okay. Tyler Wurtenberger. So we got 2 different Tylers. Tyler, you've got your... oh yeah, You like my hat, Tyler? Mwah. Is that so? We get Tyler, Mr. Wurtenberger is guessing judgment, and Nulu guesses temperance. So Kimberly also guessed temperance. We got 2 for temperance and 2 for Hierophant. Okay. Very nice. Very nice. Excellent. Now, in this figure, the pagan naturalists represent all the vital powers of the 3 kingdoms and families of sublunary nature: mineral, plant, and animal. So these are constant kind of kingdoms, and it's like you can see that these categories very easily. There's a mineral, there's plant, and there's animal. These are 3 different things. And so a lot of nowadays, I think Theosophy really codified it with the kind of this wheel of nature where you have mineral, plant, and animal and human at the top. And your essence, you incarnate into this wheel. In the mineral kingdom, you flow through the mineral kingdom, you become an elemental. And then in the animal kingdom, you kind of gain more of a single body. Like as an elemental, you know, maybe you have a body as a tree or a plant, but you can still move around freely. Whereas like when you're an animal, you're properly embodied. And then finally you become a human, or as Gurdjieff would say, a 3-brained being. And as a human, you have an opportunity to ascend and move off of this wheel, but most people don't. Most people stay unconscious. This is the wheel of nature. Nature loves us, and evolution can take us to a point, but it cannot. Evolution is automatic. Once you become human, to go further, you need something conscious. You need a conscious will to go further up the ladder. If you don't develop consciousness, if you don't do awakening, you spend time as a human and then you become more of an animal, and then you go back down, you start incarnating as animals again, then you go down into the vegetable, and then you go mineral. And this wheel, you see this concept popping up in some Sufi schools. Idris Shah mentions it, the Theosophists talk about it, and even back here. You can see where this idea comes from. It's very easy to look at nature, see these categories, and go, aha. So there's the mineral, the plant, the animal, and the human. Humans are not animals. Well, rational animals. Most humans are animals nowadays, but a true human is not an animal. They're a part of they're a different category of being. Have we got more guesses? Turn hat backwards when it's time to get serious, like Ash Ketchum. I think I look fucking geeky as shit when I do that though. And you see, like, because I'm bald and it's got that red dot there, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. My skin just goes pink too easy. And look, you remember like that guy, Stuttering Craig, or like dudes on the internet that wear backwards baseball caps? It's not a good look. This isn't the 90s, bro. Ash is a child of the 90s. Yes, he is eternally, like, 11? How old is Ash Ketchum? He's 11, 10, 11, 12? But he is a child of the 90s. And the baseball cap, turn it backwards, or goggles. A lot of the early, like, you know, Digimon, a lot of the Digimon characters always had, like, there was always a character with goggles on. They never wear the goggles. It's always just they just have goggles. That's all 90s. And you can never do that again. We can never go back. Another guy in the chat, welcome. Bro Rockin' All Green said, damn Skippy. Damn Skippy. Carl hates it. He's part of the yellow gang. I'm like, nah, man. Let's get a little... Would you say this is teal? Cyan? What's the difference between teal and cyan again? This is kind of teal. Like, we're verging on like an ocean blue here. Like, you can imagine the ocean this color. Whereas we got the dark greens up here, the emeralds. I still struggle understanding how one moves from mineral incarnation. When does that being end? What constitutes the end of that lifetime? It's just when the essence... mineral maxing. It's just when the essence is advanced enough to move on. So this is one thing I've mentioned before. When you're in the mineral kingdom, you're not embodied. Because it's like, if I get a rock, does that have an essence? And if I break the rock in two, is there two essences now? How does that work? It's not that the rock is a body, it's the entire earth is like this kingdom. I remember one guy, take this with a grain of salt because he turned out to be a bit wacky, but I remember this one guy telling me he had a clairvoyant experience where he was on a walking trail and then he kind of, his clairvoyance, he was a meditator. So he had certain experiences, but something like activated a little bit. And he was looking at a rock and he saw, you know, like when there's you cut a rock in half and there's stalagmites in the middle of it and it's like a gem. His vision he could see into the rock. But it wasn't just stalagmites, it was like a structure on the inside. that was almost like a ballroom, and there were people dancing inside. So within the rocks, it's more like the rock houses essences. And it's, as there are essences that will stay in the mineral kingdom forever. But then there's intelligences within the mineral kingdoms that progress. Because what's in the mineral kingdoms, there's all types of minerals. You can be in dust, I guess. You can be in crystals. You can be in lava. You can be kind of all over the place, but it's, as there's this natural, there seems to be some kind of progression that moves it into a plant-like vehicle. And that plant then becomes embodies an intelligence. Teal is like light blue with light green. Okay, cyan is fully saturated color. Okay. Damn, we got a paint theorist in the chat. Go Bob. Son of dust. And so with the plant kingdom, then you can have some plants, you know, we just have grass, and then you have mushrooms, which, how do you describe, is a mushroom one being? Because a mycelium network is then a bunch of essences talking to each other. Is it like a shared thing? And then you can have things that are almost more like animal, more have behaviors of animals, like Venus flytraps, they eat meat. And then when you become an animal, you're fully embodied then. But you could say there's some animals that are more basic animals, like say a worm is, if you're using Gurdjieff terms, it just has a motor and an instinctual cylinder. It's one-dimensional. Whereas then you kind of go more lizard, you know, you upgrade, your fish, your birds, and then you get really advanced animals, like, what is it, horses, you got eagles, you got these kind of animals, that dolphins, that have not just an instinctual motor, but a true emotional cylinder, and almost a little bit of an intellectual cylinder coming in. And it's man, the three-brained being that has properly three brains formed, and we can not just emote and have instincts and an embodied motor cylinder where we walk through the world, but we have an intellect that can rationalize, that can reason, that can also begin to contemplate things in a metacognitive way. We can create new concepts, synthesize things together. Voices in the Wilderness, welcome. And it's like, it's something more advanced, but the intellectual capacities are also potentials. They kind of do need to be developed and shared. Because, you know, you see some human societies don't progress at all, and some human societies do. Pardon me. I smashed a geode and it didn't say shit. This game, that's pretty funny. Setting more Italian red coral. Oh, hello, Necrodancer, by the way. Sounds non-linear. The evolution, yes. Because there's also, when you know in ceremonial magic how you categorize things, how like different gems are on different planetary rays. Like an obsidian will be Saturn, whereas a rose quartz would be Venusian. But then you also have incense, and where does incense comes from? Plants. So there are different plants under different rays as well. So a rose would be under Venus, whereas opium is under Saturn, and etc, etc, etc. Animals are also under different rays. So it's this thing of, you can be born under a certain ray, or you can, as an essence, incarnate, start absorbing a specific ray, and move through the kingdoms along that certain ray. So there are some people who are Venusian in nature. So they were a rose court, they were a rose, they became a swan, and now they're a human. But there are some people who are naturally Saturnian, that are children of Saturn. They were never rose quartz, they were never emeralds, they were obsidians. They were hard things. Coal, diamonds. They were gems and diamonds. Coal. They were burning coal all the way through. They became opium. They were crows, they weren't Venuses. Sorry, they weren't swans, Venuses, what? And then they became humans. So humans is this apex where all of the energies meet. And then a magician is someone who can work with all of the energies, who can pull all of those attributes out, who can become conscious of them. Howdy, Coco. See, you're still grey? Where's that membership, huh? No, just kidding, I'm kidding. The Ocean's server is nightmare difficulty, says out tuition. Well, look, at least you get experience real quick. I mean, this is the thing though. Is it fast or is it slow? Because early game, you just insta-kill and you just keep incarnating. or you'd keep moving through different modes. But then if you get like sea turtle maxing and you just live 100 years, damn, that's a lot of XP for one life. Your essence is going to be very robust after that. Same with if you tech into whale or dolphin. And heck, maybe your essence will, because it's said that there are also essences that get into certain places in the animal kingdom and just stay there forever. So there could be like Giga, Chad, Golden Embryo level elementals, but they just stay there. And that could be like the king of a certain region. So like a lion that's like always the alpha, the king of the herd, is like, or like there's an ape that just always outdoes an ape, all the other apes. It's like that's an essence that's just been there forever, just continuously churning in that. It just enjoys that area and refuses to leave. Greenland sharks live hundreds of years. Yeah, that's another tech. You get into Greenland shark, your essence goes Greenland shark, you're going to be staying there for a while. And that XP, when it finally gets dumped in, when it finally gets cashed in, that's going to be a lot. And then we have the human kingdom, which is pretty exclusive. But nowadays, because there are a lot of humans just churning in, you can very easily get from the animal kingdom to human kingdom. So Steiner says, we got going off. Fuck, you guys got me off topic so easily today. So easily today. Steiner says, in Lemuria, there was a block, so your essence would get to animal kingdom and it would just stay there, or like maybe go back down. It wasn't allowed to access the human kingdom because the human is something that descends downwards. It's actually not something evoluting upwards, it's descending downwards. And so there were these humans that were incarnating, beings that gods that chose to incarnate in these superhuman forms. This is where you get ideas of like the first race and Hyperborea and Lemuria. Everyone's like a Giga Chad who can levitate and has all of your faculties. It's in Lemuria that the gates are open. And so animal essences are able to incarnate into the human world. But then, as Gurdjieff says, the Kunda buffer gets added onto man and this fucks up. So instead of animal essences becoming human and then human being a rung that can then lead to another higher rung, like in an automatic way, what happens? Our consciousness bifurcates because of the Kunda buffer. People become Hasnamusen, and then animals basically reach the human kingdom, degenerate, and then just go back down. So the human degenerated so much it basically became an animal. So we're kind of like capping off the animal kingdom, but we should, in our own right, be a separate category, a separate rung of the ladder that then leads to something else. This planet is a womb for angels and demons. We're not meant to stay humans. Most people get absorbed into the circle. They get completely dissolved into the circle, like grains of sand being crushed by the gear. This is a skill issue. Angel or demon, choose. Walk the path. Become conscious. Crystallize higher being bodies. Reach for the higher functions, the higher genius. Contact angels. Work, descend into the chthonic madness so that you can rise through an ascension, recollect past lives, gain cities and powers. Don't just stay a human. To be a man is to be a rope across an abyss. On one end is the animal, and on the other end is the superhuman, the super being, the god. That's what the work is. That's what we're trying to do here. You know what I'm saying? We derailing the reading group super hard, Nulu. Super hard. The demiurge really tricked gods into incarnating as humans? Absolute mad lad. Yeah, well. I mean, look, actually, if you read the Gnostic scriptures properly, there was supposed to be a world. So archetypally, through the architecture, this was... higher beings were supposed to incarnate. It's more like that we just got messed up at some point, and now we're here. It sucks. Enigma, welcome. Evolve's political philosophy with his organic hierarchy where everyone occupies their proper place seems similar to Crowley's every man is a star collective true will. It's hard because Crowley also bases himself off the liberalism of Rebellius, the Abbey of Thelema, which is a utopia where there are no laws, except for one, do what thou will. Because in a country where people degenerate, you need more laws. If you have, just a nice society where everyone is virtuous, you can leave your gates open. You can leave your front door open while you go out. You can just go to the shops and leave your house open, and no one steals anything. You need to lock the doors. You need to have police. You need to have a private police force driving around your neighborhood, when there's spiritual degeneration, you need more laws in times of spiritual degeneration. So the fact that Crowley talks about what the Abbey of Thelema really is a utopia that's inhabited only by humans. We aren't humans, we're rational animals. We haven't gotten there yet. So if you're able to incarnate, to become something more than what we are, maybe you'll get incarnated into Shambhala. There's a secret invisible city somewhere on this earth with true humans. That's where we're trying to reach. We're not necessarily... Are we trying to create a utopia? You cannot create a utopia unless the individuals who make up that society are awakened. High trust societies never last because of the abominable consequences of the Kunda buffer organ our tuition. Gurdjieff speaks of this. Gurdjieff understood. It is hypothetically possible, but you need humans with higher being bodies. If you had a utopia, but everybody in that place had a solar causal body, you're good. But if you're in a country where we are now, where everyone is just an essence, we've got nothing going for ourselves, we don't sublimate our desires, we give in to our desires, and our politicians are all Hasnamusans. Oh yeah, communism is going to create a utopia. No. It's not going to work, dog. It's not going to work. Howdy, Piranha Plant. Nulu asks, is that related to why some kinds of angels, like a Prophet Elijah vision, have a bunch of eyes all over them? It's a soul made up of a bunch of other human souls whose spiritual... No. I think people themselves, we're all aggregates anyway. You know, we all have multiple desires in us. Why is a master able to be silent when they meditate? They're able to just sit so easily because they're one thing. When we sit, we're thinking about the past, we're anxious about the future, we're thinking about lunch, we're a bundle of different aggregates. A master becomes one, but even though he's one, there's still remnants of the old. And so you could say the angel is, or used to be, an aggregate being, but it's showing that the aggregate nature has been fused into one. It's a symbol, like an eagle in it with a snake wrapped around its head. The eagle is transcendent, the snake is chthonic, but a being that's represented by an eagle with a snake wrapped around it is showing that both of those have been unified. So is this utopia kind of like the Lodge of Death in the Fraternus? Kinda. Anyway, that's just my interpretation, Nulu. Now, stop distracting me. Man considered as an animal. Yeah, so I went through this, how... I think we've talked about that enough, guys. At one of her ears was the moon, at the other the sun, to indicate that these two were the agent and patient or father-mother principles of all natural objects, and that Isis, or nature, makes use of these two luminaries to communicate her powers to the whole empire of animals, vegetables, and minerals. Of the back of her neck were the characters of the planets and the signs of the zodiac, which assisted the planets in their functions. This signified that the heavenly influences directed the destinies of the principles and sperms of all things, because they were the governors of all sublunary bodies, which they transformed into little worlds made in the image of the greater universe. Macrocosm, microcosm. Let's go. We're sperm maxing here tonight, guys. Isis holds in her right hand a small sailing ship with the spindle of a spinning wheel for its mast. That's interesting. That's such an interesting symbol. The ship is the thing on the waters, but also to navigate a ship, you need to be able to look at the stars, because when you're on the ocean, there's no landmarks. So you look at the stars, you plot a map using the heavens, but then you also need to extrapolate the heavens into where you are on the earth. So to be a cartographer, to look at the heavens and to orientate yourself on the earth where you are in the heavens, that in and of itself is a union of the heavens and the earth. So the ship is always an interesting symbol, the thing that glides on the waters using the heavens as its guide, but its mast is a spindle for a loom. For a thread, the thread of Ariadne that guides us through the labyrinth of the world of desires. The thread that is stitched into a gown, or perhaps a higher being body. That's just right there. So symbolic. Just that symbol, just mwah. Pee-pee strong, guys. Pee-pee strong. Oh, we got a little stream dip. The quality's still good, guys. Give me a thumbs up if you dropped out. Now, from the top of the mast projects a water jug, its handle shaped like a serpent, swelled with venom. Oh, hello. A water jug. This indicates that Isis steers the bark of life. Bark of life. Wood. Full of troubles and miseries on the stormy ocean of time, the spindle symbolizes the fact that spins and cuts the thread of life. These emblems further signify that Isis abounds in humidity, by means of which she nourishes all natural bodies. Humidity, very alchemical, the humid path, preserving them from the heat of the sun by humidifying them with nutritious moisture from the atmosphere. Moisture supports vegetation, but the subtle humidity, life ether, always more or less infected by some venom proceeding from corruption or decay, it must be purified by being brought into contact with the invisible cleansing fire of nature. This fire digests, perfects, and revitalizes this substance in order that the humidity may become a universal medicine to heal and renew all the bodies in nature. The serpent throws off its skin annually and is thereby renewed, symbolic of the resurrection of the spiritual life from the material nature. So that's interesting. So always remember, the serpent also is a symbol of resurrection. The serpent raised on the staff. This is renewal of the earth takes place every spring when the vivifying spirit of the sun returns to the countries of the northern hemisphere. The symbolic virgin carries in her left hand a sistrum, a symbol or square frame of metal, which when struck gives the keynote of nature, fa. Do, re, mi, fa. She completes the semitone in nature for us. How very Gurdjieffian. Sometimes also an olive branch to indicate the harmony she preserves among natural things with her regenerating power. By the processes of death and corruption, she gives life to a number of creatures of diverse forms through periods of perpetual change. The symbol is made square instead of the universal triangular shape in order to symbolize that all things are transmuted and regenerated according to the harmony of the four elements. Pray to the Great Mother. Dr. Sigismund Backstrom. What a great name, can I just say? Backstrom. That's a video game name right there. Sigismund Backstrom. This is a game where, like a Bioshock game, where you start the game on a train and then you like arrive in a place and you kind of work your way through and it's, Sigismund Backstrom, welcome. Step right up. Sigismund Backstrom. And then you get lightning powers. That's definitely a lightning powers name, right? I believed that if a physician could establish harmony among the elements of earth, fire, water, and unite them into a stone, the Philosopher's Stone, symbolized by the six-pointed star or two interlaced triangles, he would possess the means of healing all disease. It sounds like a Warhammer name. Okay, yeah, that's true. I can imagine. Sigismund Backstrom, would that be a... Oh, shit. Who are the guys? Commissioner. A commissar. Would that be a commissar, or would that be like... Because it doesn't sound like a space marine name. That sounds like a commissar or something. Sigmund Backstrom. He's got the hat, and he's shooting Marines that are retreating. That's 100% one of those dudes. Because it may be an Inquisitor, but it's definitely not a Space Marine. Doesn't give a name of a Space Marine. Dr. Backstrom further stated that there was no doubt in his mind that the universal omnipresent fire, spirit of nature, does all and is all in all. By attraction, repulsion, motion, heat, sublimation, evaporation, the process of drying up or removing moisture, exsication, insipation, I guess that I'm going to just guess that's the opposite of this, coagulation, okay, I know that one, and fixation. The universal fire spirit manipulates matter and manifests throughout creation. Any individual who can understand these principles and adapt them to 3 departments of nature becomes a true philosopher. Very based. I was thinking more like Warhammer Fantasy. I have no experience with Warhammer Fantasy. So I've like looked up a couple of lore vids on Drukhari because I love Dark Elves and the Drow. Where should I start if I want to learn more about Warhammer Fantasy? Should I just like choose a race and just start learning lore, or what do you think, Piranha Planet? What's the inroad? Manifesto. Any individual who understands these 3 principles and adapt them to the 3 departments of nature becomes a true philosopher. Ooh, a Gotrek and Felix book. Okay. That looks pretty based, I'm not gonna lie, actually. That looks fun. That looks fun. Grey Knights are cool. If I played, I would probably go... If I played Warhammer 40k, I'd probably either go Necrons or Grey Knights, not gonna lie. Should have been called the Green Knights, why? From the right breast of Isis protruded a bunch of grapes, and from the left ear of corn, and from the left an ear of corn. So one titty, wine, the other, corn syrup. Or a sheaf of wheat, golden in color. These, could you imagine? These indicate the nature. That nature is the source of nutrition for plant, animal, and human life, nourishing all things from herself. The golden color in wheat, corn indicates that in the sunlight or spiritual gold is concealed the first sperm of all life. On the girdle surrounding the upper part of the body of the statue, appear a number of mysterious emblems. The girdle is joined together in front of 4 golden plates, the elements placed in the form of a square. This signified that Isis, or nature, the first matter, alchemical terminology, was the essence of the 4 elements. Life, light, heat, and force. That's interesting. That's interesting. So the 4 elements are not earth, fire, wind, water. It's, well, we got heat as fire. Life is water. I'm going to say it's the waters. Light? What would you say that is? Would you say that's earth or wind? Because then we got force. That's interesting. Very interesting. Which quintessence generated all things. The quintessence is the 5th element. Quint, so you got quad and then quint is. So light is going to be air, you think, Kimberly? Could be. Could be. Air is also a force. But I miss force, you think more of... The numerous stars are represented on this girdle, thereby indicating their influence in darkness as well as the influence of the sun in light. Isis is the Virgin immobilized in the constellation of Virgo. where the world mother is placed, with the serpent under her feet and a crown of stars. So that's the overcoming the serpent. In her arms, she carries a sheaf of grain and sometimes the young sun god. Everyone's going, forces Earth? Okay, okay, very well. True, Dad. The statue of Isis was placed on a pedestal of dark stone ornamented with ram's heads. Her feet trod upon a number of venomous reptiles. This indicates that nature has power to free from acidity or saltness, all corrosives, and to overcome all impurities from terrestrial corruption adhering to bodies. The ram's head indicate that the most auspicious time for the generation of life is during the period when the sun passes through the sign of Aries. The serpents under her feet indicate that nature is inclined to preserve life and to heal disease by expelling impurities and corruption. In this sense, the axioms known to the ancient philosophers are verified, namely, nature contains nature, nature rejoices in her own nature, nature surmounts nature. Surmounts. What is it? Surmounts means to overcome, in my mind. What is... be placed on top of, to overcome. Okay, so it is. So nature can dominate nature. Nature contains nature within its nature. Nature rejoices, so nature is vivified by its own nature, or by other nature. Nature cannot be amended, but in her own nature. Very interesting. This is all, I feel like some Taoist alchemy coming off of this. Evola translates it as dominates. Okay. Surmounts. I mean, you know, we got some British people here. British people, sorry, American. Manly Behold was very, you know, he's a nice guy, so maybe he doesn't want to dominate people. He just wants to surmount them. Therefore, in contemplating the statue of Isis, we must not lose sight of the occult sense of its allegories. Otherwise, the Virgin remains an inexplicable enigma. From a golden ring on her left arm, a line descends, to the end of which is suspended a deep box filled with flaming coals and incense. Isis, or nature personified, carries with her the sacred fire, religiously preserved and kept burning in a special temple by the Vestal Virgins. This first fire is the genuine immortal flame of nature, ethereal, essential, the author of life, the inconsumable oil, the balsam of life, so much praised by the wise and so often referred to in the scriptures, is frequently symbolized as the fuel of this immortal flame. From the right arm of the figure also descends a thread, to the end of which is fastened a pair of scales to denote the exactitude of nature in her weights and measures. Isis is often represented as the symbol of justice, because nature is eternally consistent. Surmount maxing, that's pretty funny. The Egyptian Madonna, from some French manuscript. This Isis is shown with her son Horus in her arms. She is crowned with the lunar orb, ornamented with the horns of rams or bulls, so these are more bull horns. Horus, or Horus, as he is more generally known, was the son of Isis and Osiris. He was the god of time, was he? Hours and days, okay, I guess, because sun gods do become gods of time, or solar divinities, and this narrow span of life recognized as mortal existence. In all probability, the four sons of Horus represented the four kingdoms of nature. It was Horus who finally avenged the murder of his father, Osiris, by slaying Typhon, or Set, the spirit of evil. No, ours, hos are us, geez, Snickdy. Horus! Horus! That's why it's so interesting. The Horus heresy is such an inversion Because in 40k, Horus kills his father, or aims to kill his father, instead of redeeming himself. The world virgin is sometimes shown standing between two great pillars, Jachin and Boaz of Freemasonry, symbolizing the fact that nature attains a productivity by means of polarity. As wisdom personified. So yeah, by polarity produce things. Men and women make baby. Man, woman make baby. Man, man, pee-pee touch, no baby. Woman, woman, no baby. But man, woman, polarity equal baby. Generation. That's how it works. As woman personified, Isis stands between the pillars of opposites, demonstrating the understanding. That understanding is always found at the point of equilibrium, and that truth is often crucified between the two thieves of apparent contradiction. Very interesting. Very interesting. So there is a reconciliation, a breaking of the binary, which is a synthesis. But you can't just dissolve the binary and then do nothing with it. What Manly P. Hall is saying is there are only two genders. The sheen of gold in her dark hair indicates that while she is lunar, her power is due to the sun's rays, from which she secures her ruddy complexion. Dark hair, ruddy complexion? Guys, the divine feminine is a goth girl. She's a goth baddie, getting ready to step on your serpent. As the moon is robed in the reflected light of the sun, so Isis, like the Virgin of Revelation, is clothed in the glory of solar luminosity. Apulus, God damn, I'm messy with the names. Apuleius states that while he was sleeping, he beheld the venerable goddess Isis rising out of the ocean. The ancients realized that primary forms of life first came of water, and modern science concurs in this view. H.G. Wells, in his Outline of History, is H.G. Wells, did he also do, isn't that the War of the Worlds guy? Did he also do serious things? Was he a serious writer? So a historian also did sci-fi. I mean, that makes sense. He wrote Time Machine, War of the Worlds. Did he also write Time Machine? Who wrote Time Machine? I'm tripping. Describing primitive life on Earth. Also, Divine Femboy mentioned. No, the Divine Femboy is countered by the Divine Goth Girl. Tyler Courtney gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, Tyler, for gifting all of these people a membership. What about the rest of the genders? Asks another guy. Let there be green. All of the other genders get bundled into a third category. Gurdjieff speaks of this. Because they don't, you can talk about genders as much as you want, but only man and woman make baby. If you get man and they space dock, no baby. Don't get cancelled now, Richard. I'm not trying to get cancelled. I'm just saying, look, I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying they're all in another category. Because, I mean, here's the thing. You can say gender is a social construct all that you want, but every single society all over the world, in all of the mystery traditions, has gods and goddesses. So, they all have masculine and feminine. It's something, there are divine ontological, yes, I'm a realist, not a nominalist, ontological categories that descend down. Cancel Max. That descend down and emanate and impress on the world. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? In the next chapter he adds. So yeah. So you get these impressions, but you can also, in the world, we are able to blur certain things. Because, you know, you get black and white, but then there's everything in between. We can mix, we can process things and create new things. So it's, because it's one of those things, some people want there to be categories or to be these structures in creation. but they want the structures to be kind of unmoving. And it's like, even the structures move, they just may evolve or move and process over a longer time scale. So the Platonic forms and archetypes, even though it's the same, it's a call to the same thing, it may be that, well, the archetypes change over time. Archetypes have an evolutionary process themselves. Is it just me, or is his webcam laggy? I think, no, I am laggy. Def some chop. Oh no, I think I'm dying a little bit, guys. Oh, actually, I think I have... Yeah, let me turn this off. I should have turned that off before. Whoopsie. We may be dying a little bit, guys, but we'll make it through. Encoder overloaded. God damn it. Turning down video settings. One day, guys. I see, as soon as I started canceling myself, we started dying. Nonetheless, let's... Yeah. Let me, Oh no. It got even worse. Simply too based for the internet. One frame per... Damn. Damn, are we dropping that bad? See, I'm so scared to change my OBS settings in the middle of this. God damn it. Hard chop. Shut it down. Audio is okay? Okay, well, if you guys can hear me, I'll still yap. So yeah, you got these divine structures, these categories. Let's not call them divine, let's call them ontological structures. And these structures... Yeah, I offended the divine femboy. These structures can be called forms, or they can be called archetypes, but they live... where are they? They are within the universal mind. And they themselves transform and go through permutations throughout time. So the warrior can get new things added to it as time goes by. You know what I'm saying? Oh, damn. And it's like... So I'm just looking in the studio. I'm just like, oh god, it's dying completely. And man, it's so bad. No, I gotta not look at it. I just gotta keep looking at the... Gotta keep looking at Manly. And so these structures emanate and into the world. And the whole point is, where the right-wingers go, is they're like, these structures exist and nothing like this, and they got to be eternal, and we got to submit to the structures. But if you think about it, the left-wingers do kind of have a point, in as it's like... There has to be this kind of... The problem with them is they just try to dissolve the structures and act as if they don't exist. And in acting that they don't exist, they just get controlled by them. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Carl is growing human legs. Let me bring Carl forward a little bit, actually. There we go. Carl will restore us to our natural standing. And so it's like you have to acknowledge certain universal things. Next goal, Richard gets Starlink based. You have to acknowledge certain structures in the universe to transcend them. You can't just be like, biology doesn't exist, lol. It doesn't work that way. You need something higher than biology to initiate a biological insurrection. Because, like, you know what? The alchemist could change... Fulcanelli apparently, like, could change his gender towards the end there. And it's like, well, how's he able to do that? Because he has such progress in the spirit that he has complete domination over matter, complete dominion over matter. People want to have dominion over matter, but they want to just be transhumanists and disengage from the spirit. It's like, nah, dog. You need ontology maxing. You need to be esoteric. Anyone see Pluribus yet? It's a self-dribbling basketball. What's Pluribus? You know, I'm going to keep going with some of the reading as well. I'll keep going, and if we hit an hour... We're 50 minutes in. If we hit an hour and we're dead... Actually, let me just try and get to the end of this. Y'all can listen, right? Money doesn't exist, guys. Exactly. That's the problem. That's the problem. Value exists. And if people value things, then you'll any medium can be used to exchange or to embody that value. It's like, that's what it is. Now, let's go. But through the ocean and intertidal water already swarmed with life. The land above the high tide line was so far as we can guess a stony wilderness without a trace of life. In the next chapter, he adds, wherever the shoreline ran, there was life, and that life went on in and by and with water as its home, its medium, and its fundamental necessity. Bro is generally like 1 frame per second. Damn. Is the audio still okay, though? I can hear you. I can see you, too. I can see you. I can see you guys, and you can hear me. The ancients believed that the universal sperm proceeded from warm vapor, humid but fiery. The veiled Isis, whose very coverings represented vapor, is symbolic of this humidity, which is carried or vehicle for the sperm of life, of the sun, represented by a child in her arms. Did we read this already? Are you just repeating stuff? Because the sun, moon, and stars, in setting, appear to sink into the sea, and also because the water receives their rays into itself. The sea was believed to be the breeding ground for the sperm of living things. This sperm is generated from the combination of the influences of the celestial bodies, hence Isis sometimes represented as pregnant. It's actually moving faster than the eye can perceive the audio, so that's funny. God damn. Well, we're frozen, but I'm still gonna go. We're still going. We're still going forward, guys. Frequently, the statue of Isis. Oh, actually, can I shut some stuff down? Let me close Telegram. Let me close WhatsApp. See if that helps my compy. Sorry, I should have done this beforehand. I'm such a bum. A silly bum. Frequently, the statue of Isis was accompanied by the figure of a large black and white ox. The ox represented either Osiris as Taurus, the bull of the zodiac, or Apis, an animal sacred to Osiris because of its peculiar markings and colorings. Among the Egyptians, the bull was a beast of burden. Hence, the presence of the animal was a reminder of the labors patently performed by nature, that all creatures may have life and health. Harpocrates, the god of silence, holding his fingers to his mouth, often accompanies the statue of Isis. He warns all to keep the secrets of the wise from those unfit to know them. Audio sperm, let's go. Oh, quick before the stream implodes, tell us the tarot. Actually, let me see. If the stream dies, I'll post a picture of myself with the tarot on the Telegram. Let's go like that, okay? Okay, up tuition? Man. Is there really no way to improve this frickin' encoder problem? God damn it, OBS. Stream settings. Sure, I'm just looking again. The devil. Everyone keep guessing the tarot while I finish off this chapter. The Druids of Britain and Gaul had a deep knowledge concerning the mysteries of Isis and worshipped her under the symbol of the moon. Godfrey Higgins considers it a mistake to regard Isis as synonymous with the moon. The moon was chosen for Isis because of its dominion over water. The Druids considered the sun to be the father and the moon the mother of all things. By means of these symbols, they worshipped universal nature. Are we back? Are we back? We are so back. We are so back. Okay. Let's go. Let's go. Based. Let me bring up. Remember, guys, we got the tarot coming. Now, the figure of Isis, sometimes used to represent the occult and magical arts such as necromancy, invocation, sorcery, and thaumaturgy. In one of the myths concerning her, Isis is said to have conjured the invincible god of eternities, Ra, to tell her his secret and sacred name, which he did. This name is equivalent to the lost word of masonry. Damn, I think there's I think it seems good, but I think there's like some serious latency. Like you guys are like way behind. By means of this word, a magician can demand obedience from the invisible and superior deities. The priests of Isis became adepts in the use of the unseen forces of nature based. They understood hypnotism, mesmerism, and similar practices long before the modern world dreamed of their existence. Based. Plutarch describes the requisite of a follower of Isis in this manner. For as 'tis not the length of the beard or the coarseness of the habit which makes a philosopher, so neither all those frequent shavings or the mere wearing of a linen vestment constitute a votary of Isis, but he alone is a true servant or follower of this goddess, who after he has heard and been made acquainted in a proper manner with the history of the actions of these gods, searches into the hidden truths which he concealed under them, and examines the whole by the dictates of reason and philosophy. During the Middle Ages, the troubadours of Central Europe preserved in song the legends of this Egyptian goddess. So yeah, there's this whole thing. Manly B. Hall goes hard for this, in hard that it's like the goddess worshipping cults did not die after Christianity dominated the pagan religions. The pagan religions, or at least the feminine part of the pagan religions, survived into the Middle Ages through troubadours and, you know, the love and the Venus and the poetry and the romance and the amour. So from like Charlemagne onwards, you could say, the pagan mysteries were contained in this court worship of the feminine. They composed sonnets to the most beautiful women in all the world. Though few ever discovered her identity, she was Sophia, the Virgin of Wisdom, whom all the philosophers of the world have wooed. Isis represents the mystery of motherhood, which the ancients recognized as the most apparent proof of nature's omniscient wisdom and God's overshadowing power. To the modern seeker, she is the epitome of the great unknown, and only those who unveil her will be able to solve the mysteries of life, death, generation, and regeneration. Mummification of the Egyptian dead. Let's go. Severus, commenting on Virgil's Aeneid, observes that the wise Egyptians took care to embalm their bodies and deposit them in catacombs, in order that the soul might be preserved for a long time in connection with the body, and might not soon be alienated, while the Romans, with an opposite design, committed the remains of their dead to the funeral pile, intending that the vital spark might immediately be restored to the general element or return to its pristine nature. From Picard's An Analysis of Egyptian Mythology. No complete records are available which give the secret doctrine of the Egyptians concerning the relationship existing between the spirit or consciousness and the body which it inhabited. It is reasonably certain, however, that Pythagoras, who had been initiated in the Egyptian temples, when he promulgated the doctrine of metempsychosis, restated, in part at least, the teachings of the Egyptian initiates. True that, y'all. The popular supposition that the Egyptians mummified their dead in order to preserve the form for a physical resurrection is untenable in the light of modern knowledge regarding their philosophy of death. In the fourth book of On Abstinence from Animal Food, Porphyry describes, he was a vegetarian, cringe, describes an Egyptian custom of purifying the dead by removing the contents of the abdominal cavity, which they placed in a separate chest, when he reproduces the following oration, which had been translated out of the Egyptian tongue by Euphantus. O sovereign son, and all ye gods who impart life to men, receive me and deliver me to eternal gods as a cohabitant. For I have always piously worshipped those divinities which were pointed out to me by my parents as long as I lived in this age, and have likewise always honoured those who procreated my body. And with respect to other men, I have never slain anyone, nor defrauded any one of what he deposited with me, nor have I committed any other atrocious deed. If therefore during my life I have acted erroneously by eating or drinking things which it is unlawful to cat or drink, I have not erred through myself but through these, pointing to the chest which contained the viscera, the removal of the organs identified as the seat of the appetites was considered equivalent to the purification of the body from their evil influences. Interesting, very interesting. Self-dribbling basketball says bye-bye, gotta go. Bye, self-dribbling. This is very interesting because it's like something immediate, physical and immediate. That's very interesting. Because there is an interplay between the psychic components and the physical body. We are embodied consciousness, and that makes a difference. And so it's almost like doing stuff to the physical body can have an effect to the spirit, because they talk about that in some schools where it's like if you cremate a person, their spirit kind of feels it, or like if they're still in the after death state. And so it's like if someone is has desires, but you cut their little innards out and then bury their body or embalm their body in a certain way, then it's almost like you're functionally taking the desirous psychic functions out of their spiritual processing unit in the after-death state so they can function better in the after-death state, in the bardos, and get to a better place. That may actually have some kind of wisdom to it. Just you know, you know what I mean? You guys know what I mean? Osiris, king of the underworld. The cab's in the coup. For real. Osiris is often represented with the lower part of his body enclosed in a mummy case, or wrapped about with funeral bandages. Man's spirit consists of 3 distinct parts, only one of which incarnates in physical form. The human body was considered to be a tomb or sepulchre of this incarnating spirit. Therefore, Osiris, a symbol of the incarnating ego, was represented with the lower half of his body mummified, to indicate that he was the living spirit of man enclosed within the material form symbolized by the mummy case. There is a romance between the active principle of God and the passive principle of nature. Ooh. From the union of these two principles is produced the rational creation. So that's us. Man is a composite creature. From his father, the active principle, he inherits divine spirit, the fire of aspiration, the immortal part of himself which rises triumphant from the broken clay of mortality. That part which remains after the natural organisms have disintegrated or have been regenerated. From his mother, the passive principle, he inherits his body. So the feminine is matter, mutter, mother. And the father is this logoic spiritual force that descends into matter. Logos and chaos. The part over which the laws of nature have control. His humanity, his mortal personality, his appetites, his feeling, and his emotions. The Egyptians also believed that Osiris was the river Nile, and that Isis, his sister wife, was the contiguous land which, when inundated by the river, bore fruits and harvest. The murky water of the Nile were believed to account for the blackness of Osiris, who was generally symbolized as being of ebony hue. Black bull, big dog, big lion. So, literally, did early Christians interpret their scriptures, that they preserved the bodies of the dead by pickling them in salt water, so that one day of resurrection, so on the day of the resurrection of spirit, of the dead might re-enter a complete and perfectly preserved body, believing that the incisions necessary to the embalming process and the removal of the internal organs would prevent the return of the spirit to its body. The Christians buried there, dead without resorting to the more elaborate mummification methods employed by the Egyptian morticians. In his work on Egyptian magic, SSDD, who, Sexy Simon Double D, hazards the following speculation concerning the esoteric purposes behind the practice of mummification. There is every reason to suppose, he says, that only those who had received some grade of initiation were mummified, for it is certain that in the eyes of the Egyptians mummification effectually prevented reincarnation. Reincarnation was necessary to imperfect souls, to those who had failed to pass the test of initiation, but those who had the will and the capacity to enter the secret adytum, the inner temple, there was seldom necessity for that liberation of the soul which is said to be effected by the destruction of the body. The body of the initiate was therefore preserved after death as a species of talisman or material basis for the manifestation of the soul upon earth. During the period of its inception, mummification was limited to the pharaoh and such other persons of royal rank as presumably partook of the attributes of the great Osiris, the divine mummified king of the underworld. Oh. Bruh. Come on, man. What's going on? Give me that next chapter, dog. Let's go. Okay, so this will be next week. Next week we're going deep, balls deep into the sun. The solar divinity, the universal deity. We're going to do some universalism. Another guy asks, if operations done on the body post-mortem causes change in the soul, would the funeral ceremonies also have an important effect on the soul? So this is just it. It's not going to like ruin the soul's time completely, but there seems to be some effect. Like that's why in some traditions they're like, don't touch the body for 3 days. Let him process his after-death state. Nulu says, so Osiris equals soul, Isis Gnosis, Horus the living world, after Henosis slaying Set. I mean, that could be one trinity that you see it like that. New menu item, pickled human Jesus. Christians used to pickle the dead? Yeah, I didn't know that either. The early Christians were so different. You gotta remember, when we look at Christianity now, and it's just like Nick Fuentes and a bunch of guys in weird vestments, that's completely different. Early Christianity, before they had temples, was always done in nature. Women could be priests. It was very, very different. Because remember, Emperor Julian tried to resurrect Neoplatonism as a state religion, and when you like read his stuff, he commits the biggest error as well. He makes his religion boring as hell. It's like, we're all going to be boring and philosophical, and the Christians were the ones who were drinking and partying and having all these festivals, and people were like, man, I want to be a Christian instead. And it's like, the Christians used to be the wild boys. Oh, thank you, Tyler. Thank you for the $20. And so if you think of it like that, it's like, yeah, Christians were, it was fun to be a Christian. It was good. You die, they pickle you, and you're going to get resurrected. Hey, whoa, let's go. And there's also this large variety. You didn't have to just be this one simply Christian. There's this other Christian group there, the freaking Marcionites who think the the God of the Old Testament was evil, and then you got the Gnostic Christians here and this Christian there, and it's like, before it was standardized and made a temple worship thing, it was a very grassroots, people in their homes. It was something else. Our tuition, no black hole sun here. Black hole sun. PP, come. Christianity is unrecognizable from today, most certainly. Yes, exactly, voices. Exactly. Early Christianity, yes. So thank you, everybody, for coming along. Oh, you're right. The tarot card. Okay. Last guesses. We pulled the tarot card. Let me scroll up and just see some of the first guesses we got. We got Emperor, Devil, Temperance, two Hierophants, Magnus and Reuben. Got the two Hierophants. Is Magnus and Reuben still here? Magnus, Reuben, you still in here? Where are you at? Where are you at, guys? Because I gotta tell you, Magnus and Reuben, you were exactly right. Nulu, dropping the ball this week. But Magnus, hey, Reuben, there you go. You got it, Reuben. The check is in the mail. You won. Based. For those, Reuben, when you guessed the Hierophant, what was going through your head? What was going through your head? When you saw the card come up and you're like, what did you feel? I want to know the phenomenology. And we got some massive latency, so I'm going to have to wait. Not really, just vibes. Really? What kind of vibes? What did it feel like? Was it spiky vibes, or was it like a, like not a pulsing, but like, you know how you get a vibe and it's like that? Tyler, you got it too. I guessed it before you pulled it today. Just jumped into your head 15 minutes before the stream. Okay. Damn, it was between Emperor and Hierophant. Well, you know, the Emperor and Hierophant are very close in symbols. They're both dudes sitting on a chair. So very, very close. Very similar, actually, our tuition. I did practice remote viewing recently, so maybe practice paid off. Okay, yeah. Damn straight. Damn straight. I wish I could, like... I know you're already a member. I wish I could, like, gift people memberships from here. Wait, let me see on YouTube. Can I gift you anything? Nah. Damn it, YouTube. Oh, are we also getting choppy again? Anyway, thank you all. I'll end the stream now. So, thank you all for staying along. For the members, maybe we're going to do a little Franz Barden thing soon. For the Telegram users, we got that Evola thing coming up. Keep an eye on the Substack. Hope you all liked the Loosh video. Thank you for all those who donated during stream, and drop a bird in the chat for Carl. Right on. I will see you all in the next one. Dun 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 dun.